Welcome to Cisco Live, and thank you for coming to, I think, the second center stage. I really appreciate it. I actually love Cisco Live. This is my third one to come. It's really exciting. Actually, one of my new teammates is here, and he was really impressed by how much was going on and the excitement here. So I'm David Dowling. I lead the global go-to-market security strategy for Splunk, a Cisco company, or Cisco. And I've been doing it only for about 2 years. Before that, I came from Accenture Federal Services, where I built security operations centers and actually eventually created their managed security service. I built SOCs from small SOCs to Dollar General, to Smart and Final, to the Department of Homeland Security, to Customs and Border Protection, and even Adobe Creative. So I've been around and seen a lot of different things throughout my career. Now, one thing that I've noticed from when I started and got my A+ certification and my Net+ certification back in the 90s to having all this, everything that's going around right now with all of the AI capabilities that are coming in, all of the attacks that are coming in, the world has changed. It is changing dramatically. It is changing faster than we can even think. And the legacy cybersecurity industry isn't working anymore, right? We used to, things would come up and we would create a tool for it. We'd plug that tool in and hoped it would work. That's no longer working, right? We are changing so quickly. We need to start working together. And this is where I'm really excited, is the power of AI and how we can really bring this in to really help us adapt and change to this new current market. So like I said, 2005 is when I took over my first security operations center. And here were the attacks that I had to deal with in my first 15 years of my career. Now, I rated these all on impact for finances, financial impact, user impact, and company impact. Now, you probably recognize some of these, right? Stuxnet was the first IoT attack, Target, Home Depot. I shop at Home Depot, my wife's at Target, so we were impacted by this, right? These were some significant attacks. Well, in 2020, something happened. Trump mainly, but also COVID, right? And so when COVID happened, something changed. We had to move to the cloud very quickly, and there was a completely different cadence when it came to our attacks. Now, do you guys remember SolarWinds? Anyone? All right, really big attack. How about Hafnium? Anyone know Hafnium? Okay, I will go into that one. I think you guys are all impacted by Hafnium. You just don't realize it. Log4j, do we remember that one? Right? Colonial Pipeline, were any of you impacted by that? I was dramatically impacted by that. Took down the entire oil grid in the US. Couldn't get any gas for weeks. And then we have Storm, MoveIt, and then BEC. This is the newest one. This is the business email compromise. This is that using deep fakes to do video calls, video conferences, right, to start stealing credentials. And this is just now really taking impact and already have had a massive financial impact. So if you look at this, we really have changed. The industry has changed, and this is all during Zero Trust. Now, if Zero Trust, the question is, if Zero Trust wasn't implemented back in 2022, would we have had these problems? Would they have been worse? Would they have been better if we did it earlier? I don't know. But since I've been in the SOC, it has never been easy. I actually was able to help with the state of cybersecurity, help author that last year, as well as also the impact for cybersecurity. And one of the things that was interesting and sad is about 45% of the industry, the SOC analysts, said that they plan to leave the industry. It is too hard. And honestly, I get it, right? I was there when we were looking for things, and now we just can't keep up. The attacks are coming in. They're so much more sophisticated, and we don't have the tools to detect it at the moment. So with this new security and AI, this agentic front, we have to adapt, right? We have to transform. The time is now to really, really focus on this. Our traditional tools, like I said, were built for yesterday's battles. It's time that we need to give our security teams the advantage to really reclaim and really come up with the upper hand. So as we move into what the new operating model is, is really unifying the data and making sure it's a data fabric, give the tooling, the AI and automation that our analysts needs to really help them identify and stop threats before it becomes business impact. Now, the Agentic SOC sets a new baseline for what it means to be truly secure and catalyze the innovation. So when I first started at Splunk, my first Splunk purchase, right, was about a 200 gig license, right? And at that point, we said, send everything to Splunk. That worked. That worked great with the logs that we had. But as we figured out how important data was, how we figured out how important context was, we started bringing more and more. That same customer that I purchased a 200 gig license for, I purchased a 2 petabyte license for. That was my last purchase for that company. That is a dramatic increase in data size. That no longer works, right? The infrastructure can't support it. The scaling is really hard. So we had to come up with a better way. And so, happily, we decided that it's not best to send all of your logs into one location. We need to send them in a place that they're effective and efficient, and that data is utilized to the best of its ability. So I break out data into 3 different buckets. First, we have the prevention, detection, and monitoring bucket. This is sending all of that log in that I need to detect in real time. Then I need to have additional information to really help with my investigations, my threat hunting, incident review. Now, I don't know if I need this data. I don't know when I need this data, but I need access to it quickly and immediately when I need it. So it could live in Splunk. It could live elsewhere. And then there's the last data, our favorite data. That's the forensics, audit, and compliance data. Now, working for the US federal government, I had to keep data for 10 years, and I touched that data never. Right? When I did audits, right, I would need this data once a year, twice a year. Again, throwing it into a highly expensive log storage, probably not the best use case. And so as you look through the data, I need to make a change for data specifically. And with AI, this is becoming more and more important, right? Is making sure I have the right data to train my AI models, but also have it in the right place to make it usable. So this is why we announced this last year is what we call the Cisco Data Fabric. Now, this isn't a new SKU. This isn't something you need to go buy. This is an architecture, right? So with this there's 4 parts of the Cisco Data Fabric. The first 3, however, is making sure we're getting the data in and we're getting it in correctly. We need to make sure that data is transformed, it's in the right schema, and it is in the right location. So Splunk, we added ingest and edge processor specifically for that. We can now route, transform data as it's coming in real time and making sure that it's correct. Then we understand that, again, not all data is going to be in Splunk. Everyone wants the data, it's everywhere. And so we added federated search and federated analytics. Now, this allows you to search that data in other locations, such as Azure, AWS, Snowflake, Security Lake, or any other security lakes. And so this now allows your SOC analyst to now have access to that data no matter where it's at. And then the last thing we understood is we have a lot of data, right? Inside of the security data, we have a lot of data. And what is great for this is AI. We can really, make sure that the data there, that AI can use that data to look for things that we as humans can't necessarily look for, but also use it to train your models. So it's based on your infrastructures. And so this was like the 3 things that we understood. And again, the interesting thing is we didn't have to really change anything. This is just an architecture change. Or not, it's just adding some tools here and there, not necessarily increasing your cost. But there is one big thing that we're missing. We're missing the machine data. We're missing that high volume, low fidelity data that we said don't ever send to Splunk. This is too expensive. And this is going to be the great putting this into a data lake and allowing AI to look through this. Look for those anomalies. Look through encrypted data. If they can't decrypt it, you can still find trend analysis using AI. Right? In my home, I have a smart home that I can tell you when I turn on and off my fridge. I can tell you everything just based on the signals through the power. Why can't I do that encrypted data? I can. We can do that encrypted data, and the machine data lake is there to help. Actually, we just launched a couple months ago the time series foundation model. It's an open model on Hugging Face, specifically used for machine data to look through time series, to look for anomalies specifically in that, and to help us in this era to look for things that we never could find before. So what this is really going to unlock for the data is really making sure that we can have the correlated detections, making sure we can attach all of those different point solutions and bring them together. Now, the point solutions are great, but when you don't correlate them, it's really hard to understand how impactful or what the risk truly is. Also with an agentic acceleration, this is really making sure that we can go through that large volume of data for infrastructures that are just too large and isolate those incidents that a human normally wouldn't be able to isolate. And then also having the ability to have decisive actions. With the making sure that the machine data has timestamps, it makes it really critical to reconstruct our attacks and making sure that we can make sure that the decisions that we make are accurate. Funny story, not a funny story, but a story that I had is there was a significant data breach. We were able to identify the machine that the data breach happened from. When we did the investigation, we figured out who it was. Everything was good. We were ready to go. Before we put this to the FBI where they could arrest the individual, we did an additional investigation, redid the whole thing, and we found out that one of our data centers was not on UTC, which means that the time was completely off. So our entire investigation, even though it was accurate, was shifted by 4 hours. It was a completely different person, a completely different device, right? That was a significant issue where, because of a bug in the machine, in the system, where AI could inevitably fix that going forward. So the next thing is now you understand like where we're trying to go with the data fabric and understanding that importance there, because that really does truly lay the foundation. Is how do we build an agentic SOC on top of that? Well, the first thing we need to do is making sure that we have a unified work surface that's pulling this all together. We need to make sure that we have SOAR capabilities. We need to make sure that we also have user behavior capabilities. We need to make sure that threat intel is a part of it and automated into the system. And we also need to make sure that we have AI-driven detections and responses. And as well, just making sure that we have an integrated case management. When you actually put this all together, it really does bring a simplified analyst experience that they can start to leverage the capabilities of AI. And on top, and then embedded into that, we're adding in AI capabilities. Now, there's two ways to look at AI. We have human-machine human interaction and machine-human-machine interaction. So with human-machine interaction, right, this is going to be your ChatGPT, your generative, your LLMs. And inside of Splunk and Cisco, we have assistants where you can ask it questions. You know, what is this doing? What should I do? Things like that. And then we have the agentic portion, which is the machine-human machine. And this is things where it automatically goes and does. It's looking through all of your data. It's looking for those anomalous behavior. Once it finds it, it's going to do an investigation for it. Then it's going to come back to you and says, hey, I found this. This is what I think is risky. This is what I think you should do. Would you like me to do this for you? Yes, I would, or no, let's go on from there. So it's two different types of AI. And both of those are really centering on making sure that we have an MCP integrated into that unified work surface. So this is where I feel that the agentic SOC is really going and the key elements to making it successful. Now, let's bring this into a little bit more a personal experience and also making sure, how does this work in real life? So I talked about the Hafnium. Many of you didn't know about this, so I'm going to explain a little bit about it. So Hafnium was a China-based attack, nation state, and there was 4 0 days inside of Microsoft Exchange. So what they did is it was a fully automated attack and also the birth of ransomware as a service. So everything that all of our AI attacks right now are based off of the model of the Hafnium attack. All ransomware is based off from this as well, like how it works. So you guys might not have heard of the Hafnium attack, but it was a very significant attack and has changed our industry today. So the first thing that happened is they would send out just an NTP pretty much, scan the internet looking for Exchange servers. Pretty simple. No one would detect that, right? That's a low alert, if anything, on your firewall and your security operations center if someone's scanning a network. I was getting about 60,000 scans a second at one of my SOCs, right? So this would have just gotten lost in the noise, right? After they scanned and found they had an Exchange server, they would send a request that would use another 0-day that would return the admin public and private cert for the Exchange server. Well, once they had that, they could take that, then log into the box and deploy and plant a web shell there. So one of the other 0 days that were there was allowing the user to do unauthorized file transfer and also remote code execution. Now, could I have detected this? I could possibly have detected this with rules in place. I could have possibly detected this with an EDR in place, but being that it was normal traffic, approved traffic, and nothing necessarily malicious, it probably wouldn't have fired or had the right priority in the security operations center. From there, they were able to start stealing credentials. Once you're on the Exchange server, and you have admin access, right? You're able to create users. You're able to scan actually the security authority subsystem service and pull a lot of those credentials. Again, this is something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to detect. And so once you have the credentials, right, you can start moving on and you can start looking at move laterally. Actually, I forgot to mention, back at the web shell, so like I said, I got actually compromised by this attack. When they planted the web shell and they dropped the remote code execution files in there, I actually did detect it at that point. However, the company decided that it was too critical to patch, and so we put a lot of controls around that and trying to look for abnormal behavior. But we only found that web shell because of trending analysis and a beaconing. There was a like a 5 kilobyte beacon every 40 to 45 or 40 to 50 days. It would randomly change, and we were able to do that. Now with AI, I would have been able to detect that a lot sooner, but that is where I was able to detect the attack. I did not detect the steal credentials, and I did detect move laterally. Once they start moving laterally, they started going and scanning and getting into other people's boxes and scanning those files and started stealing those files, bringing them all together and getting ready for exfiltration. The other thing they did is they got into mailboxes and they were able to use that to even get more access by resetting passwords or scraping information or doing some other things as well, and really being able to get their hands into everything inside the infrastructure. At this point, they're able to start exfilling data. Now, this is another point where you could have detected the attack, is seeing that out. However, it's encrypted traffic. It's small bits of traffic, so it would have been hard to detect. And then at that time, they maintained a CNC. Now, the interesting part about this is when this attack happened, there was about 26,000 companies that were compromised. Microsoft then said, hey, we have 4 0 days, and they announced that. And they announced it with the patch. How long does it take for you guys to patch your systems? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, right? Year? We don't know. Like, it's not that quickly. Within 4 weeks, that went up to 160,000 companies, right? Can you patch that quick? No, you can't. And even if you patched any of these 0 days, it would not have fixed the issue. Once they're in, you now have to go and find all those files. You have to find that access. You have to remove those users and get them out. So it was not as simple as just patching and you were protected, right? Because this was all automated and that's how it could move so quickly. At this time, this is when China actually sold the access to ransomware as a service and kitties, and then they used that to do ransomware. And they started spreading it out. We did get hit with that. We were able to stop that without encrypting the devices through our endpoint service. But as you can see, this is a very sophisticated attack. This took hours from the initial detection of an Exchange server to all the way to exfil data could take hours, right? You can't respond this quick. Your SOC can't respond this quick. And so this is where a lot of the features that AI brings could really help with this, right? And so one of the big changes that we made is we started getting away from selling point products, right? We understand that EDR is great, NDR is great, CASB is great, right? SIM is great. All these tools are great to have, but you have to make sure that they work together. So we decided to change our approach to really help in this agentic era, and we released what's called Enterprise Security Premier. And this is really taking away, trying to come up with how to stitch it all together and giving a single solution, which we call as a threat detection and investigation response platform. Really making sure that all of the capabilities that I mentioned before are in one single place for our analysts, so they're not having to decide, should I do this, or what they should do next. When you have the capability to have a detection fire, have the playbook automatically do the triage, have it give its disposition on what it thinks, gives you a recommendation on what you should do next, bring in threat intel, giving you all of that context for that, detonating any malware for you, and then providing that insights, providing additional IOCs to be able to move on and see if there's other things you can do, right? It kind of changes, it does change that game for the security analysts. And then when you start bringing in additional capabilities with AI that we'll be releasing this next year, it's going to help those analysts really become multipliers and really making sure that they can effectively get their job done. And so what we're really trying to do, right, is give our humans using AI unified actions on what to do next, giving them recommendations, helping them get there, helping them embed embedded guidance in the system. The nice thing is, you can take your playbooks and upload it into SOAR and have it auto-create that automation. And then you can go in and make those changes to make it quick and easy to automate your playbooks. And then when you start adding AI and having that trained on what we're doing in the industry and giving you more context outside, it's going to extremely help. And with the other things that we're adding is malware reverse analysis, where anytime you get any malicious code, a QR code, image, or anything like that, being able to detonate that, execute that, seeing if there is any malicious, then doing reverse malware analysis on that, and then providing all of that information and context before an analyst even picks up that ticket is going to be incredibly impactful to your security operations. The other big thing that with AI and really helping out with this is the detections, right? That's one of the biggest things I think that we have a hard time is making sure that we're writing successful detections and accurate detections. So we purchased a company called Snap Attack last year, and we've added those capabilities into enterprise security, into this threat detection platform, where you now can use AI to help create your detections. And we're gonna do this in a couple different ways. The first one is just being able to say, hey, I wanna write a detection for this. And then it writes a detection for that, pretty simple. But then you can work with it, tune it, and making sure that it is actually doing what you want it to do. Then you can test that detection, actually run that detection on your infrastructure, run it on your logs, and seeing how it will work and if it's actually detecting what you want. You also have the ability to alter those detections after and give a differential of what would have fired and what wouldn't have fired, and making sure, again, that you aren't, that you're writing the detections that you expect. This is actually one thing that I thought is just because we had the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? And if you actually look, we have a detection for every single thing on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Now, is that good? Is it not good? Well, that gives a false sense of security, right? Having that there is just because you have a detection for it doesn't mean it's gonna fire. So one of the other capabilities that we're adding in here is being able to search the health of your detections. Going through and saying, hey, what detections do you have on that don't work? What detections do you have on that don't have the logs? to actually fire, right? And then you can take that and you can say, hey, we should probably turn these off, or even better, we need to go find these logs to be able to have these detections to fire. Well, then we can also do the exact opposite, right? And saying, hey, here are all the logs that you have that you do not have detections for. And these are the detections that we recommend that you turn on. We now have over 2,000 detections in the Splunk's detection library, and we have a couple hundred in the XDR's detection library. Bringing that together is we have so many detections, but every infrastructure is different, all logs are different. So we need to make sure that those detections that we have are utilizing what we have and effective for our SOC analysts. And then with that, right, is making sure that we have the playbooks to be able to respond to this. Now, I have a different philosophy when it comes to security operations. Is it used to be, right, where they said send all the logs in, where instead I say, what's the outcome that we want? Where do we want to go? What am I supposed to do? How do you want me to respond to this? And making sure I get that portion first. Once I know what the end goal is, I want to prevent, I know that, I want to detect, and I know I want to have a digital resilient infrastructure and get back to where I want. But who do I need to contact? What information do I have? And working my way backwards to what the outcome is, to what the playbook is, to what the triage that I will need to do and the information I need to get, to what the detection needs to be. And that's when I now have the detection would be written correctly with the correct information to be able to get to my final end state. And then I can go back and say, what do I do with those logs? What logs do I need? Where do I need those logs to make sure that they're most efficient? So if you want to go and see kind of how this all works in practice, we have this wonderful show floor that you can definitely go and check. You can also come and talk to me as well. And then we also have a couple other sessions to really deep dive into each specific of these. I also highly recommend you go to the keynote tomorrow, which will go in a little bit more on this, or come to my deep dive session on Thursday, where I actually get into the products and how they work. But we have a SOC tour, if you want to see it in live, just over here in the digital resilience floor, that actually shows all week. And with that, like I said, I really am excited about where we're going with this. I do think that we are in a very transformation time with security operations, and it's going to change not even how we hire, how we interact, but really how we operate into this new SOC era. So thanks so much for attending, and look forward to seeing you guys later.